black in Peru. Now, I've been wanting to do this video for a long time because, frankly, I did not like Peru at all. And I actually ended up in Peru from the advice of a female who I actually met in Cartagena, Colombia, who coincidentally lived in the same neighborhood as I did, you know? And I was like, hey, I'm going to go to Venezuela because I got a hotel voucher at one of the tourist islands over there. And she was like, oh, don't go to Venezuela because everybody I know who went to Venezuela didn't like it at all. She was like, go to Ecuador because, I've been to Ecuador. I like it. I was like, all right, I'll go to Ecuador. So I go to Ecuador. Ecuador was cool. I stayed there for a few days. And then I took the bus to Peru. Now, when you're entering the border from Ecuador to Peru, there's really no definitive border and like kind of a makeshift immigration center. You got to register with the national police and they ask you everything like, hey, what do you do for work? Just everything. You got to get like a card from them and you need that card to exit Peru later. So when I enter the border, everybody up there is like indigenous kind of. And, it was cool for the most part. I end up taking a taxi to the city. I can't think of the name of it. Start with an S. It's Sullana or whatever. It's near the Peruvian border. So eventually I end up in this bus station. And I'm looking at all the bus counters because there's like multiple bus counters that you can take where you can get buses to Lima. So this guy come up to me, Hispanic guy, of course, and he was like, "Hey, what's up, brother? What's up?" I was like, "Hey, man, I'm looking for, a cab so I can go to the ATM." He was like, "Oh, I got a cab." Come to find out, his cab was a van, okay, a white van, and he kept on saying like, "Hey, brother, hey, we're the same, we're the same color, we're the same, and all this." And the Hispanic guy, he didn't really look dark to me, but I guess in Peru he was considered like, a dark Hispanic or whatever. I don't know. So he gave me a ride to the ATM, which is located downtown. Wasn't that far, I took out some Peruvian dollars, and at the time I didn't know the exchange rate, so he asked like 80 from what I remember, and I gave him 80. Come to find out, 80 equals to $20 in US. I'm like, man, this dude done jipped me off, So he dropped me off at the back of the bus station. Now, people on the bus was cool. They was kind of hip, actually. People didn't really say anything to me, didn't really pay attention to me until I started talking in like English to this one boy who was selling stuff on the bus. I saw him in the bus station. I was like, yeah, let me get the water. Then people were like, oh, you speak English? And they tried like communicating with me, but I couldn't communicate with them in Spanish. But this one guy, he pointed to his hat, and I think his hat had Obey on it, So yeah, they kind of hip in Peru. So I take the bus from the city to Lima. Now, on the bus ride there, you could see like the landscape was kind of weird, man. I never saw a landscape like that before. It was like white, like Rockies, like I'm not in the Rockies, but it's like I can't really explain it. But however, you can see shacks in between the people just like living in it, It's kind of weird. But anyway, get up in Lima, right? And Lima looked run down. It looked like a clean rundown. Imagine a clean housing project building. Imagine a project building, but it's clean, It's kind of like that. I can't really explain it, man. It was like, I was like, okay, cool. So, eventually I end up in the China part of the town because I wanted some Chinese food, So I had my little Spanish dictionary pointing to Chinese and the translation, and dude was like, okay. Then he took me over there, dropped me off. Now, when I left the restaurant, I was trying to, get a cab. And note, every vehicle on the street in Lima is a taxi almost. Okay? Every other vehicle is taxis. So you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of taxis passing constantly. So I'm trying to, for a taxi. And I noticed nobody stopping. I'm like, okay. I'm like, hey, man, nobody's stopping. I realized that I'm out there for like 10 minutes trying to get a cab. I'm like, dude, what's going on? I'm like, come on, man. What's going on? Every other car's a cab. Anybody who been to Lima knows this. I'm like, all right, man, come on. Nobody would stop. I'm like, okay. And then I realized, like, okay, It must be because I'm black. I didn't want to think like that, but I'm like, well, can I get a cab? So eventually, and I think I had money in my hand to let people know, like, hey, I got money or whatever. But eventually, this guy stopped. He stopped and picked me up, and he, it seemed like he was kind of on edge or whatever. I'm like, all right, man. Constantly looking at his rear view mirror back at me and stuff like that. I tried to ignore it and kept on recording like the tourist I was. So eventually, I had to get a ticket from Lima back to Fort Lauderdale. So I flew out of the Lima airport. So I go to the airport, and I got checked like 5 times in the airport. First, I go to the counter. I'm like, okay. First, I think when you enter the airport, you get checked, and then I went up. I was like, yeah, man, I'm flying in on JetBlue, and I had to go up to this place, and the guy, like this one guy who was standing in front of there, I was like, hey, man, I'm trying to get a JetBlue ticket, and he kind of put his hand on my side and was like, no, you got to go downstairs to the ticket counter. Now, I'm a fan of Locked Up Abroad. And on some of those stories, especially in Lima, you'll notice that people got caught smuggling drugs by people by airport staff tapping their side. And I think they're trained to do that, because it was kind of weird for him to do that to me, but he did it anyway. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Get down to the ticket counter. The lady was like, hey, man, did you pack your bag yourself and stuff like this? I was like, yeah, but they still had a brief inspection of my bag and stuff like that. I only had, one bag with me. I'm like, all right, man. So we had to go through security. So, of course, you get checked and whatever. And this customs lady, right? Okay, I'm the only black dude in the area. The rest of the people are Hispanic or white who's coming through. So my bag goes through the x-ray scanner. But this lady takes my bag and she starts searching, can I go through your bag? I was like, sure. Start searching through it. Everybody else, they ain't even paying attention to everybody else x-rays that coming through. She just obsessively going through my bag, I'm just sitting there like, really? I'm like, really? Is it because I'm dark skinned or whatever? I'm like, dude, come on, man. She's just going through my bag like crazy, ignoring everybody else. I'm like, really, dude? And she reluctantly gave me my bag back. It was like, I know you got something. I'm going to find it. I'm like, really, dude? So, it was crazy. Then when I get up to like the airport area, like of the JetBlue flight where they load or whatever, they check your bag again, and then before you get on the plane, they check your bag. I was like, I got searched a bunch of times. I'm like, I hope this is protocol, but yeah, I did not like that at all. Another thing about Peru too is that I kind of felt like I was in America to a certain degree. I was like on edge and whatever. I was standing on the corner trying to get a taxi again when I left my hotel room. Of course, nobody would stop, so I go through the to the main street corner, and I saw the National Police ride past, they was looking at me like, I'm like, okay. Like, I feel like I'm in Florida somewhere, man. And then they made a U-turn to come right back around and staring at me. I'm like, man, I got to get off this street corner. Taxi, nobody would stop. And then the tuk-tuk driver across the street saw me. He was like parked, just chilling. He saw me, and he came over. Did he come over to me? Yeah, I think No. I walked over to him. And I was like, hey, man, can you please, take me to the airport? And, he took me or whatever. So, yeah, man, so those are my experiences in Peru. The energy in Peru, I didn't like it at all. So, I don't think I'm ever returning back to Peru ever again. So if you black and you thinking about going to Peru, pass it up. I know everywhere's not like that. But if I ever go to Peru again in the future, I'm going to that place, I can't think of the name of it, but the Machu Picchu. I'm going there only, or I'm going to like the Amazon portion, the Amazon River portion. But I did not like Peru at all. And I'm sorry, Peruvians. And by the way, just in case y'all didn't know, George Zimmerman was half Peruvian. He killed Trayvon Martin, so that lets you know where they coming from. So all my Peruvians who are good people, I apologize. But I'm saying that was my experience in your country. I didn't really like it. But, other than that, it is what it is. Peace.